Arsenal have moved 7 points clear over Manchester City and over Aston Villa. What's really interesting, Man United beat Manchester City comfortably. Well-deserved 3 points for Manchester United. Arsenal follow it up with a somewhat disappointing performance away at Nottingham Forest. And then yesterday, David Moyes and Everton turn up to Villa Park, in which they won their last 11 home games, and he comes away with a win. So if I was to ask every Arsenal fan out there, at the beginning of the Premier League weekend, would you take a scenario where you move a point clear of Man City and Aston Villa? Would you take a situation where you could be 7 points clear over both your title rivals, knowing the fact that Manchester City have to play Spurs, have to play Liverpool soon, Aston Villa have got difficult games coming up, and the fact that Arsenal, if they do beat Karat Almaty or Inter Milan, the likelihood is they will be inside the top two of the Champions League, which will then give them home advantage in the next round of the Champions League, whilst having a somewhat easier fixture in the FA Cup against Wigan at home. And with all this, potentially a cup final coming up too, if they match the result against Chelsea, which they already have a goal advantage. So the question I ask all Arsenal fans is, what's the meltdown for? Granted, you should have beat Liverpool. You should have beat Nottingham Forest. But you've actually ended the weekend being a point further ahead than you already were at the beginning of the weekend. I think Standards FC and the whole Arteta out movement at this point is irrelevant. You're in this season. You're in the next round of the FA Cup. You potentially have a final coming up. You could go 8 out of 8 wins in the Champions League, which only conceding one goal, which was against Bayern Munich, beating Aston Villa at home in the Premier League, beating Spurs at home in the Premier League, beating Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Bilbao, beating Man United away. I don't really understand what the meltdown's for. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're top of the league, top of the Champions League, and in still both domestic competitions. Who else can say that? It could be a lot worse. We just lost to Aston Villa in the FA Cup. We just lost to West Ham and Bournemouth in the Premier League. Man United, before their win over Man City, were also in a crisis. Chelsea have appointed a manager who doesn't look comfortable in the role. And Liverpool are currently 5 games unbeaten, but including drawing against Fulham, Leeds, and Burnley. I don't really subscribe to the notion that there should be a meltdown in the Arsenal fan base. I understand you haven't won a trophy in 5 years, but this year, that will happen. Make sure you go down, drop a like on the video if you haven't already. Make sure you let me know your thoughts. Make sure you get over to the second channel and hit that subscribe button on there as well. That would be greatly appreciated. The road to 10K is on there, and the road to 100K is on here. We are just under 700 subscribers away from 88,000. There's a lot to get into today. There's a big Premier League weekend coming up where Arsenal play Manchester United. Manchester City play Wolves. Spurs have got a trip to Burnley. You know, Liverpool, again, are they going to bounce back? Chelsea, a tough trip coming up in the next Champions League game. But you'd imagine they'll beat Pavos this week. But in terms of the Champions League games that are coming up, I'll get to that in a minute. But as it stands, Arsenal are 7 points clear of Manchester City and 7 points clear of Arsenal. And as I said, if you started the weekend with that potential scenario, you surely would have taken it. I look at this right now. When you look at Manchester City, look at their recent results. Forget the 2 cup games. Let's look at league. Losing to Man United, drawing to Sunderland, drawing to Chelsea, drawing to Brighton. And Man City have somewhat of a tough run coming up. Other than Bodo and Wolves, Spurs, Liverpool. If there's a game where we're going to win under Thomas Frank, let me tell you right now, it's against Manchester City. We are their kryptonite. We are their bogey team. They have a mental block where whenever they play against us, we've already beaten them this season at the Etihad. We have something over Manchester City. Again, do you think at the way they're playing, they're going to go to Anfield and get the 3 points? I don't necessarily think so. Fulham, again, you'd imagine they'll win. Other than that, they have got a relatively easier run of games until you get to April when it does get tough. But one thing that's a positive for Arsenal is all the games they're playing between now and the end of the season, other than Spurs, but again, Spurs away is not a tough game for Arsenal because, let's be honest, they just keep beating us. All their tough games are at home. Man United, bearing in mind, they've lost one of their last 30 games. What is the meltdown? They will beat Manchester United, in my opinion. Inter Milan, as long as they beat either Inter or Almaty, they should finish top. They've only conceded 1 goal in the Champions League. Chelsea, Sunderland at home, Brentford away. And then you get into February where they play Wigan in the FA Cup, us, Chelsea again at home. Everton, tough game. Again, it's at home. Bournemouth, tough game. Again, it's at home. Newcastle and Fulham, tough games. Yes, but they are at home. And you look at their home record, and guess what, guys? It's the best in the league by some distance. They've only conceded 5 goals at home in the Premier League. They haven't lost a game at home. They've got plus 21 goal difference. Look at their last 5 results. You know, they're still unbeaten. They've got 3 more points than any other team in the league at home this season. I don't subscribe to the narrative that Arsenal are struggling. They're going to bottle the title race. Let's look at their away record, shall we? Well, again, it's the best in the league. They've only lost 2 of 11 away games, which was against, I believe it was against Aston Villa and Liverpool. So when we look at this situation right now, I personally believe in the next games, I mean, they've still got 4 more games this month. I do believe they will beat Leeds United. I do believe they will beat Manchester United, and I do believe they beat Almaty. I think tomorrow, most Arsenal fans would go out there and take a draw. But you're still 7 points clear. We can talk about Victor Gyökeres. I'll get onto him in a minute. But what's the meltdown for? Gyökeres, I do believe, should be dropped in the next couple of games. Kai Havertz looks like he's back to full fitness. Eberechi Eze, I think, will come in against Inter Milan. I think maybe Ethan Nwaneri should be given a run out as well. For whatever reason, he looks like he's fallen down the pecking order. I think you could see a completely different 11 to the 11 that played against Nottingham Forest at the weekend. You know, the back line picks itself. You know, you may see Lewis Skelly come in and Timber rested, or you may see the exact same 11. But Zubimendi, Rice, and Eze, I think, should be the midfield. Leandro Trossard should be starting. Madueke did score a hat-trick in the last Champions League game, which I think was against Club Brugge. Other than that, Kai Havertz, for me, has to come in, or Jesus has to start. Gyökeres had that opportunity where he was running past Murillo. For whatever reason, it didn't necessarily fall for him. He looks like he's shot of confidence. He looks like he's you know, mentally struggling. Is it too big of a step up? A lot of people are getting frustrated with his performances. But again, football is a very, very, very funny game. If he went out and scored a hat-trick against Inter Milan and then scored 2 or 3 goals against Manchester United and got back-to-back hat-tricks, all of a sudden, everyone would completely forget about what we're witnessing right now. You know, it can change a lot. Just before the September international break, Arsenal were second in the league. Liverpool just beat them. Fast forward to the September international break, Arsenal moved 4 points clear. Then you look at the October international break, November international break. It can change very, very, very quickly is my point. And I don't believe right now that Gyökeres is going to go on a run of games. So Arteta's got to manage it one of 2 ways. He either drops him, puts Havertz in, and hopes Havertz goes on a run. And then when Gyökeres does come into the team off the bench, he scores. Or he keeps letting him play games and start games. But at the moment in time, he's got 1 goal in his last 10 games, which was a penalty against Everton. He's got 8 goals in 26 games, which isn't a bad return by any stretch. But it's just not as prolific as we saw him in Sporting. Now, of course, he got that goal and an assist against Chelsea, But other than that, look at that. I mean, nothing against Forest, nothing against Portsmouth, which he didn't play, obviously. Nothing against Liverpool, Bournemouth, Villa, Brighton, Palace. But again, how many of these games is he actually playing full 90s? Hooked off early against Bournemouth, hooked off early against Forest, hooked off early against Liverpool, hooked off early against Everton, but he did get the goal. It looks right now that for whatever reason, maybe the players or Arteta just don't necessarily trust him right now. I do think he's got the ability to go on a goal scoring run. I just don't necessarily think with the games they've got coming up, Man United is going to be not an easy game, bearing in mind they've just beat Manchester City and they are going to have full confidence. Plus, Arsenal have to play Inter Milan midweek. Then they've got another midweek game. You know, the fact that it's the 19th of January and they've still got 4 games to play with Inter Milan, Karat Almaty, Manchester United, and Leeds. You know, 4 games in 12 days, one every 3. It's going to be an interesting run for them. I have a feeling they may actually get something against Inter Milan. And if they do, that'd be 7 wins on the bounce. You know, when's their next leg against Chelsea? The 3rd of February. So 3 days after the Leeds game. Bearing in mind, Chelsea have got to play Napoli away coming up as well. They've also got to play, that Arsenal fixture. I believe they will make the final, and I believe they are the Premier League favourites. I wouldn't say clear favourites, but at the same time, I don't really see City, the way they're playing, really making up the points gap. So maybe it is clear favourites. Let me know your thoughts. Make sure you get over to the second channel, hit that subscribe button there, and let me know your predictions for the Champions League games. We'll be covering every single game. Make sure you drop a like, and I will see you in the next one. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching. I am out.